Good morning, so it's morning, and I'm Ilic. I'll speak here on behalf of IUCN Commission on Ecosystem Management, and I'll give this presentation together with David Vackar from Charles University in Prague, who is also IUCN Commission on Ecosystem Management member. Thank you. And this will not be a technical presentation at all. It's rather to give a bit of insight what IUCN Commission on Ecosystem Management is doing. Which kind of expertise people involved in this voluntary network have, and how we can actually offer this expertise to this new database on ecosystem services and values. Can you hear me? Okay. And in terms like what is the connection within this biome expert group, and where we can expect that people can review existing data and contribute further. So I'll do this introduction, and David will tell more about insights from certain thematic groups we have, and a way forward how to develop this initiative. So the IUCN Commission on Ecosystem Management is a voluntary network of experts who work on ecosystem management in the ecosystem for like in a natural state or modified. And it always, actually it builds on IUCN program on ecosystem management, but it is rather dispersed because the experts live in different parts of the world, and it's just I'd say virtual network, so there's no kind of solid structure. So it is supported by the headquarters in Switzerland, and this is just like a basic overview. There is a chair, and unfortunately Peter could not join us on the session, and the steering committee who guides the program of work, but also there are like regional vice chairs because it has this global tendency to cover every region of the world, and thematic group leaders, and this work is also supported by young professionals, me being one of them, but just take it as I'm working in this ecosystem services group together with them. So IUCN the commission, this one particularly is not a big commission, but really has a big ambition to tackle all these issues which are long present or like recently become like a hot issues. And so that's not a surprise that they're like in such a small group of experts. There are already like 20 thematic groups which deals with different aspects of ecosystem management. I pointed out these ecosystem services which already exist for a long time, but it's also climate change adaptation and restoration of ecosystems, very important aspect as well. And yeah, also capacity building is important, especially because we do have members from north and south, and it's always important to have like a fair dialogue and to offer access to publications and exchange of ideas, and of course to support each other in terms of publications work, and we hope in this one as well. So already within these 20 thematic groups, certain biomes are recognized as important to work on, and I list here a few. So it's the Mediterranean type of ecosystems are there, and grasslands, just particularly in Latin America, but drylands ecosystem, mountain, wetlands, Holarctic steppes. But as I said, this is just the idea to always act in certain region and to be fast and efficient. But within these other thematic groups, I kind of try to merge a few new, to recognize other biomes which are not recognized as a biomes per se, but they still exist. And I made also a bit artificial division because I identify ocean or marine biome, but I put it together with the coastal ecosystem group which already exists. So within these 14 biomes which are used in this debate, so this is a bit debatable, is it a really good approach? But the idea was that between these three groups we can still have got a good expertise on marine issues, on coastal ecosystems, or to look at the more like holistic approaches, because certain processes aren't there, and if there are people who already work on it, we can ask their expertise or ask them to to review the data. So it's like a nutrient cycling or generally climate change. I think it gets also like a place there, or different restoration processes. And there is like a new, let's say, hype trend to do now new methodological classification of ecosystems comparable to IUCN Red List, which is like the flagship project of actually how IUCN actually started in the 48. But the idea is that, as I said, because of this global perspective, we can really get like reliable data and try to figure out how they can use the database, I think. But still, a lot of things are missing. I put these few biomes which are really like threatened, like tropical forests, coral reefs, and mangroves especially, but as I said, we have this coastal wetlands, so it's also like important to see how they're recognized in their program. And so which means that we can have a look a bit further within IUCN as a whole, because it's structured on these commissions of experts, and one of them is also Commission on Protected Areas, who might have something to offer in these different biomes we are missing within our commission. Or when we talk about the social-cultural values generally and sustainable livelihoods, this Commission on Environmental Economics and Social Policy, what sees is very have good insights because we're working really closely with local communities. But as I said, it's always a trade-off, people who are not used to follow this debate on ecosystem services, how willingly they are to really adopt new methodologies. Or, I mean, is it easy for someone who really knows a good one region or one ecosystem or environment to recognize potentials to make these linkages? And this is the question I can't answer myself. Oh, sorry. That was like a general introduction, and now David will tell you.
So thank you, Ilona. So I will present the results of the brief survey. Already highlighted by Jelena, the IUCN SEM includes relatively broad expertise, but the information is relatively scattered across the globe. So we conducted a brief survey to get some more concise information on ecosystem service assessments and valuation, with the aim to map ongoing activities within IUCN, especially SEM, and also with the aim to mobilize some future activities in this field. And prior to the ESP conference, we asked two questions which has been distributed within IUCN. First, are there some activities or initiatives, especially in biome thematic groups, concerning the assessment and valuation of ecosystem services? And the second, are there some databases existing or being assembled which could be used for ecosystem services assessments and valuations for a given biome or ecosystem group? We've got several responses, but only some of them are relevant. Positive responses came from Mediterranean type ecosystem thematic group and thematic group on disaster risk reduction, and no activities specifically in the field of ecosystem services assessments have been reported by ecosystem approach group and fisheries experts group, although these groups are applying ecosystem approach but are not dealing specifically with ecosystem services assessment or valuation. One of the major activities already planned and ongoing within IUCN SEM are activities of the Mediterranean type ecosystem thematic group. The Mediterranean type ecosystem group invites members to participate in the inventory of ecosystem services for Mediterranean type ecosystems. And as I understood from the response, they have some PowerPoint invitation which is going to be released and it summarize some project goals, definitions, and they are not in the stage to have some databases available. But it seems that this group is very proactive, and they asked some questions in return to our survey, and I promised them to address it at this forum. I will not go into detail now, but I will touch upon this later. But in principle, they ask if there is some international effort to standardize definition of ecosystem services and related issues. So they ask about some guidelines or standards, and there was also questions concerning differentiation along ecosystem services cascade, or how to differentiate services, benefits, etc. Other positive response came from the thematic group on disaster risk reduction, and as I understood, this activity has been focused especially on one specific service, that is moderation of extreme events. And there are some activities ongoing on case studies in Himalayas concerning slope degradation, landslides, and connections to rural development. There were, of course, other activities in the past within IUCN. I can give example of this study on total economic value of temperate grasslands, which has been carried out in World Commission on protected areas. And now it's relatively difficult to know who within IUCN Commissions is working specifically on ecosystem services and on which services specifically are addressed. And in the future, it could be possible. We get several offers to present some announcements in IUCN newsletters, for example, newsletters of Species Survival Commission or Commission on Education and Communication, etc. And what are possible further steps or outlook, especially for next year? Next year there is a World Conservation Congress being held in South Korea in September, and we have been considering to make a proposal for a workshop at this congress, possibly together with ESP, which would address these questions connected to biome level or ecosystem specific assessments, ecosystem service assessments. This submission for workshop the deadline for this submission is 15 October, so it's relatively soon. And another challenge, as already indicated by some demand from the Mediterranean group, could be to develop some standards or guidelines based on combination of approaches like MA, TEEP, or manual for assessment practitioners, to give some standards or guidelines for, especially for IUCN members, to promote some or conduct some ecosystem services assessments and evaluations, which could be connected also to database standards and other issues. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thanks for a great overview of IUCN, especially the Commission on Ecosystem Management. I assume all of you are familiar with the IUCN, the largest world conservation organization. I see somebody shaking his head. It's the oldest, also international conservation organization, I think. They were founded in 1948. And IUCN actually founded the WWF in 1962 or something, mainly for fundraising for the work IUCN was doing in the regions. And over the years, both organizations have gone their separate ways, and they were both based in Gland in Switzerland. They're still working closely together, but IUCN is more the scientific conscience, if you like, of the global conservation movement and providing a platform for dialogue between other NGOs, governments and business community. It's a huge organization. And every 3 years they have their World Conservation Congress, as they call it now, and I think tapping into that resource is really important for what we are trying to do with the Ecosystem Service Partnership to get this Ecosystem Service Review Committees going, separated or split out by different biomes, and they have an enormous expertise in more in natural science underpinning of those ecosystem services, but are becoming more and more interested in also the economics of it. And we will try to submit a proposal by the 15th of October to have a workshop at our next World Conservation Congress in South Korea. Maybe one quick question before we go to the last presentation on an already functioning database. Yes, one question there.
I have a bit of problem to understand how the ecosystem service valuation on the biome level fits into the ecosystem management concept of IUCN CEM, because that is including also the management and development of socio-economic communities, population well-being and so forth. And that's a completely different delineation, different area definition than the biome level. And so how these two concepts fit together is not obvious.
No, we did not explain that clearly enough. Actually, I have been involved myself in IUCN for more than 20 years now. Whenever I say these things, I realize I'm getting old. So. But one thing I want to achieve too is to create local case studies or even showcases where people really work in the field to understand how forests or wetlands or other systems are providing those services in combination with livelihood aspects of the local people. All those values that we have been showing are of course all time and context dependent. That's why you have to be so careful with benefit transfer. But all those values that we show, they do come from local case studies, and then they are being scaled up to different levels. But yeah, we think we just use the term biome to have a representation, global representation of all those different types of ecosystems. But you're right that you don't do the valuation at the biome level, we do at the local scale. Okay.